Patriot Network TV. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about reaction to the election, but first I wanted to mention just a quick update on personal issues here. I've been away from the Patriot Network TV. Have been basically kind of under the weather a little bit, and I wanted to mention that my health is doing basically as good as can be expected. As my oncologist always tells me, when people ask, you just say that you have inoperable malignant stage 4 cancer. And the drug that I take for it is doing great. I'm very happy with the results from the drug. I haven't had to do the chemo or the radiation therapy yet. And we're fighting this thing, and the only downside is every now and then I just don't have much oomph, and so there are periods of time when you're just not going to see me. I'm sorry to say that. I'd like to be on every week. I'd like to, be giving you ranting and raving and pounding the table, but there's some times when I'm not going to be on. So that's the update. I'm doing as good as I can, expect to be doing, and hanging in there. Now, I wanted to talk to you today, first of all, in terms of reaction to the election. It is critically important for those of us who function from the center to the right end of the spectrum to be of bold heart and good cheer. Regardless of the outcome of the election, the reality is that this nation remains a center-right nation. Now, there are some compelling statistical evidentiary issues that we have to deal with here in just a second, but I want to urge every one of our viewers, every one of our Patriot Network friends and followers, to be of bold heart and good cheer. Do not, here's your Latin lesson for today, illegitim non carborundum. That means don't let the bastards get you down. So our lesson, illegitim non carborundum, revolves around the fact that even though we wanted a much different outcome in the election, we are still living in the greatest country on earth, and we still are poised to do some great things. Now, I want to urge you, in fact, I'm going to Obama language here for a second. The president's languaging previous to the election was in terms of gender politics, race politics, and revenge politics. And I don't know how many of you followed the president's direct advice when speaking to certain groups. He'd mention candidate Romney, and there'd be boos, and he'd say, "Oh, don't boo, vote. Voting's the best revenge." Now, I've heard voting described a lot of ways. I've heard it described as the greatest exercise of freedom. I've heard it described as the franchise. I've heard it described as what makes America unique. I've heard it described in many, many ways, but I never, previous to President Obama, heard it described as revenge. And I never, in my adult life, have I ever seen anyone run a campaign that was so explicitly directed by race, by gender, by ethnicity, by handicapping condition, by sexual orientation, by marital status. I have never in my life seen a campaign that was so, for lack of a better word, so venal and so small-minded. Now, if you believe, and I don't know how many of you still do, but if you believe Michael Barone and Karl Rove, who are, or at least previous to this election, were thought to be fairly knowledgeable fellows about elections, their post-election analysis says that somewhere between 3 and 5 million quote-unquote white conservative voters sat on their hands and didn't vote because they were quote-unquote evangelical and they wouldn't vote for a Mormon. And Quan and I are not the kind of people to say, "I told you so," but 4 years from now I want to be asking those folks, how'd that work out for you? How did that purity that political purity that you were embracing? How'd that work out for you? Because it's going to be very, very doubtful after the president appoints 2, possibly 4 U.S. Supreme Court justices. There are many, many issues that should be important to evangelical voters that are going to be removed from the possibility of changing for the next 4 to 5 decades. So if you're one of those folks who label yourself as a quote-unquote white evangelical voter, and you sat on your hands because you wouldn't vote for a Mormon, as you watch President Obama in the second term turn even harder to the left and watch his EPA do more damage to our energy policy, and watch his appointments to the federal court system, most especially the U.S. Supreme Court, do even more damage to the legal system in the United States. I want you to remember the purity that you felt by sitting on your hands and not going to the polls. That was not a good strategy. One of the consolations, and I would say this especially to people who were in the state of Ohio and the state of Pennsylvania. Ohio and Pennsylvania are going through basically an economic boom because of shale, the Marcellus Shale formation in Pennsylvania, New York, and even into there's a separate one in Ohio. But there is very little possibility that the people who voted for the president are going to be happy about that in 6 to 10 months, because the EPA is going to try their hardest to close down all fracking. The energy growth, the massive energy production growth that we've had, the one bright spot in the economy for the last 4 years, is going to be choked to death by the EPA in their ongoing effort to turn the United States into an energy poverty country rather than an energy rich country. Fracking has been a wonderful boom, especially on private land where the EPA couldn't get in and disrupt it. And for those of you who are upset about the way Pennsylvania or Ohio voted, those voters who put Mr. Obama back in the White House, 90% of them are going to lose their jobs. And of the folks who are in the energy development in Pennsylvania and Ohio, I would say close to 100% of them will be out of work very, very soon, because the EPA is going to shut down fracking. They're going to come up with ways to eliminate the fracking boom. Now, of course, North Dakota is safe because their oil development is going on private land, and that they should be able to dodge the bullet on that. Final thoughts on the election. Every one of the groups that were targeted by the Obama campaign to be their quote-unquote core constituency are going to find out in the coming years, 2013, 2014 especially, that what they were promised is an illusion. There is, first line in any good economics textbook, everything in life is a choice and scarcity rules the roost. Second point of any good economics textbook, there is no free lunch. Everybody who thought they were getting free health care, you're going to have to start paying for it. If you don't pay, you're going to go to prison. Everybody who thought they were going to get more Medicare, you're going to find out that the heart of Obamacare is stealing $716 billion from Medicare. All of the folks who voted for President Obama who are Jewish, you're going to find out that the state of Israel is going to be betrayed by this administration. So, for whatever it's worth, those of you who are upset about the result of the recent election, be of bold heart and good cheer. Those who voted for all the wrong reasons for the president will be punished, and punished substantially. To borrow the words of the president, the best revenge is letting stupid people vote just like they want to. God bless you. God bless the United States.